Hello, this is George Demaree, and we're back again with Money Matters. And remember the mission of Money Matters. We're here to promote the financial literacy as much as possible, to expose you to financial, business, and employment opportunities, to help you make strategic financial business decisions, to put you in control of your money and not have your money control you, and to break free of financial slavery. And debt is a form of slavery. St. Stephen Baptist Church is blessed to have a number of successful business owners and entrepreneurs. And over the next number of weeks, we're going to be featuring another business owner and entrepreneur. Today, we have a person who has grown to be a very dear friend of mine and has done a great job in this market. And his name is Kevin Shern. And Kevin Shern is the president of Superior Maintenance Company. Hello, Kevin. How
Hey,
are
George.
you today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing great. These owners have a variety of business backgrounds, and what we want them to do is to share how they got in business and how they've maintained success in their business. Maybe ask them what is their secret sauce. So Kevin, first of all, let's share a little bit about you. Tell them about you and where you're from.
Well, George, I started in business a while back. I'm about the same age you, still young, and we kind of migrated, you might say, from St. Louis years ago. I left St. Louis in 1984. I graduated from high school in 1974. So 10 years after I got out of high school, I left St. Louis for the small town of Elizabethtown, Kentucky, which is about 40 miles south of here. And what took me there was I was actually sales manager of a manufacturing company that remanufactured metal forming equipment. So punch presses, press brakes, that type of thing. And because before I came to Louisville, to E-Town, I was actually sales manager of the contract manufacturing division for a manufacturing company there. So my background has primarily been manufacturing all the way up until the time I got to Elizabethtown, Kentucky. So that's what took me from St. Louis to Elizabethtown, Kentucky. But at that time that I made the move to Kentucky, I had to decide, do I stay in St. Louis and learn and take advantage of the company I was working for? Because the next move for me, I was contract manufacturing manager. The next move was president of that company, because the last three positions of president, they were filled by the person that actually had my job in contract manufacturing. So naturally, I'm thinking, and I was there about 8.5 years, I'm thinking, that was the path that I was on. That was my career path. But then I also felt that it's probably time for me to do my own thing. I was working hard, I was putting in 12, 14 hours a day. I was running my division like it was my own. And that's what you should do when you're in business, whether you're working for somebody or working for yourself. You should be doing business like it's your own, okay? And that means doing everything you can and then some, okay? Everything you can and then some. So since that was the case, I decided in 1983 to incorporate in Missouri because I wanted to do my own thing. I was manager of contract manufacturing, which meant that my job was to get business from outside to bring it in-house to remanufacture it, manufacture it, fabricate it, weld it, whatever the case may be. And that's what I did. So even though prior to that, I was assistant sales manager of the press division, where we had our own proprietary products. We built new machinery, we sold machinery, that type of thing. So mine was a contract division. Mine was really a smaller division, but it was one where we would fill in the void in the plant. So let's say if we weren't building a press, or our main bread and butter was sugar mill machinery. So if the sugar mill machinery.
Wow.
So we built machinery that crushed, ground, and processed sugar, okay? The company was over 100 years old. The name of the company was Fulton Iron Works Company. And I started there on the drawing board as a draftsman, and I later became a design draftsman. Now, let me go back a little bit further. I graduated from high school in 1974, but when I went to high school in 70, I attended my regular high school, which was some high school marching bulldogs. I might say.
You've talked to them about them a few times.
So when I went there as a co-op student. So my original plan was to go to high school, go to school half a day, regular high school, and then be bused to a vocational school for half a day. So that was the path I was on from the time I was in grade school, wanting to be an architect. So I took up architectural drawing when I was in the ninth grade. When I became a senior, I was at top of my crafts, and I got a job as a senior. I went to work for a manufacturing company. The difference was I'd been trained to be an architectural draftsman, but when I got the job, it was mechanical. So I had to change from architectural to mechanical in order to get that job. And that was for a company by the name of NCI, Numerical Control Incorporated, where I actually did drawings for a manufacturing company that built aeronautic parts for the aircraft industry, basically. 6 months later, I got work at a consultant engineering firm. Okay, now I'm graduated from high school, and I went to work for a consultant engineering firm. Now, I like that idea because I was able to work with engineers and architects doing various different types of drawings. So whether it be architectural, mechanical, civil, structural, I worked for all those various different individuals as Zerhide Herman Consultant Engineers. And then 6 months later, I was hired by Fulton Ironworks Company. By this time, I was a design draftsman. I was really good at what I was doing at that point. But prior to all that, when I was in high school, I applied for jobs at both of those companies, both Zerhide Herman Consultant Engineers and Fulton Ironworks Company. They both turned me down. I got a nice little letter in the mail saying, yeah, we like your drawings, but you don't have enough experience, from both of them. To this date, George, I have those letters still to this date framed in my office showing where I was turned down from those jobs. Fortunately, in each case, they called me back. And of course, this back in the day, there wasn't a lot of folks that looked like me in those positions. You know, so I was the only one that looked like me in the entire companies that I worked for.
And you had a special trade.
Exactly.
You learned that.
Right.
It put yourself in a position to satisfy a need.
Exactly. But the key was being the best is what I was doing, no matter what it was. And during the summer when I was going in high school, I worked as a custodian. So I was custodial aide. And as a matter of fact, it was a city job, city summer job. I was custodial aide. So now I was a draftsman, training to be a draftsman during the school year. And when school was out, I was custodial aide, okay? That's just giving me a little idea of my background from the facility side of the business that I'm in.
So let me ask this. Sounds like you had a good career going, like a lot of people do in the corporate world. I had a friend of mine tell me a number of years ago that the biggest obstacle for really experiencing great success is a job. Now think about that. That the biggest obstacle in experiencing great success is a job, because people will not take a risk about leaving the benefits, leaving a steady income, to step on their own to start their business. Tell me, what happened with you that made you say you spent all this time, you learned all these skills, then you decided that, you know, I'm going to do this on my own? What happened?
Well, the biggest thing for me is I've always tried to be the best at no matter what I've done. When I was sweeping the floor, I wanted that floor to look, I put my name on that floor, okay? When I was cleaning that restroom, I wanted to be the best at whatever it was. So when somebody came into that room, they knew that I cleaned it, okay? One thing about janitorial service, you get instant gratification when it's a job well done.
I've never even thought of that.
You know, that's one good thing about it. When you walk into the room, you know who cleaned this room. You may not say that, but you know it's clean. But you know when you walk in there, it's cluttered, it's dirty. I mean, you get instant gratification because you cleaned it and you did a great job. So that's what type of thing I did. You know, Martin Luther King once said that, you know, you should, if you're a street sweeper, okay, you should do it like Michelangelo, paint a picture.
He did say that.
Okay? So I looked at no matter what I did, I looked at the same way. So my focus has always been quality in whatever I've done. So that's the key, quality. And fortunately, I was raised by mother and father who instilled that type of value in us at an early age, okay? So when I started working for someone else, I mean, I did it because I wanted to grow. I wanted to be an architect. I decided to be an engineer once I went to Fulton Ironworks Company. and I started doing the mechanical drawings for the sugar mill machinery. Then I said, okay, I'm going back to school. So I started attending community college, okay? Forest Park College, Florissant Valley Community College, learning all I could about improving myself to be better at what I was doing for someone else. 1976, I was promoted to assistant sales manager of a division. So I went to my first trade. I got on my first airplane flight to Chicago for the largest machinery show in the world. It's called the International Machine Tool Show. At McCormick Place in Chicago, they have it every other year because it was such a huge show, and it ran for about 2 weeks straight, okay? So I was experienced with doing these shows. When I started doing it, people started recognizing me the way I conducted myself at these shows. So I ended up getting offers to move to other companies. Other people wanted to hire me, this type of thing, because they just saw how I operate. And as a young African-American, ambitious individual, really that was a rare situation back there in the mid-'70s. So people really appreciated you. So I didn't use my race as a disadvantage. I used it as an advantage because people would remember me. They would remember me.
I can appreciate what you're saying about
They would remember me. They would forget somebody else, but because I was the only one running around trying to do things, and I was doing it as well as anybody else, okay? I believe in being number one or trying to be number one at whatever I do, no matter what it is.
So again, tell me about your business, man. Tell me. See, because we got people out there who look up to you and want to say, well, what did he do to become successful? And how can I emulate some of the same things that Kevin Sherman did in order to be successful?
Right. So so going back to your question relative to what made a difference. Why did I decide to do my own thing?
Right.
Well, I had been doing all these things for others, and I was generating business. And when I got the division of when I was promoted I was assistant sales manager, as I mentioned, but then I was promoted to manager of contract manufacturing for another division, which those presidents came out of. So at that point, I said, I want to be the large division. The largest division was the sugar mill division. I said, I think my division should be larger than anybody else's. So I started working towards that. Then I got to a point where customers would say, oh man, we really like what you've been doing since you've taken over the division. One thing that we hated about Fulton Iron Works Company is when they got a big sugar mill order, then our business would sit and we couldn't get delivery. So I said, it'll never happen. So I wanted to make it large enough where they would appreciate. So at that point, we got a big sugar mill order for the government for Egypt, big sugar mill order. So all of a sudden they came to me and said, Kevin, you need to slow down. We don't need you to develop. We don't need you to grow your division. So now what I was planning on doing, I can no longer do because I had to slow down. I was doing too good of a job, so they told me to slow down.
I've heard that before.
So in order for me to continue to grow, I had to move out. Sometimes you have to move out in order to move up. So that's what I decided. So I decided, well, since they don't want the business that I can generate, then I will go to someone else that does. I will start my own business because there's a lot of companies. By this time, I'd become known amongst my competitors as someone that understands the business, can go out and generate and develop business. So at that point, I said, well, I'll do it as a manufacturer's rep. So I incorporated in St. Louis, the state of Missouri, in 1983. The president of the company that I was working for told me about a company out of Kentucky that was looking for a representative.
Wow.
So everybody appreciates, when you do a good job, everybody appreciates what you do and they want to really assist you. And so he told me about the company was looking for someone like me who had experience with repairing machines, making new machinery, that type of thing. And it was a company out of Kentucky that specialized in repairing and rebuilding metal forming equipment. So I inquired about them, about representing them as a manufacturer's rep, and they offered me a job. They said, we want you to be a sales engineer for Missouri, Arkansas, and Southern Illinois. And I said, well, I was really wanting to start my own business. They said, well, we'll give you a car, let you work out of your house, and give you a phone answering machine. Remember those phone answering machines? Yeah. So I said, well, heck, this is what I was going to be doing on my own. I might as well do it at someone else's expense because maybe I won't like it in 6 months. I may not like running around out there. And so anyway, I decided to take the job operating out of St. Louis, run around the country, developing more experience, and then I ended up being invited to that same show I told you about, International Machine Tool Show, that my new company was going to be exhibiting in. So at that point, our parent company was in Lansing, Michigan, Industrial Welding, and then the new division was in Kentucky. So when I went to that trade show, now keep in mind, I'm the experienced trade show guy from where I used to, from 1976, I went every other year until that time. 1984 was the trade show. Well, they were so impressed with the way I managed the trade show, they offered me a job to become sales manager, but I had to move to Kentucky, Elizabethtown, Kentucky, where the plant was.
Is that what brought you to Kentucky?
I would have 12 sales engineers working for me throughout U.S., Canada, Mexico. And that's what brought me to Kentucky. That's how I got here. So once I got here, I said, okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my business dream on hold so I can learn more about business, so I can learn more about territorial coverage, so I can be more knowledgeable, so I can go to a town like Elizabethtown, Kentucky, which I never heard of before until then, and I could focus on learning more about business and developing myself for when I was gonna be ready to start my business again.
So let me tell you what I'm hearing. I'm gonna stop you just for a second. It tells me that you were focused,
Yes,
that you had a goal,
yes,
and you're focused on getting there, and this is what you did in order to lay the foundation from where you are today. So finish.
that's correct, that's correct. So I always believed in planning my work and working my plan. The manager of the vice president who was president, when I took his job, he became president, I took his job at Fulton, and he told me always plan your work and work your plan, okay? And I learned that I remembered that from him. It's a common saying, but I remember him telling me that. And so I started planning things at a very, very early age, okay? I also read a book that my father gave when I was 18 years old, Think and Grow Rich.
Love that book.
By Napoleon Hill.
I've read the book.
Okay? Now that's a book where the author interviewed several successful people over a period of time and wrote a book about it, okay? So it's a book full of success principles, and to this date, I buy that book and I pass it on to individuals, and I say, here, read this book. My father gave it to me when I was 18 years old. And so I started following and developing those success principles based upon that. So again, planning and executing the plan, you might say, to continuously improve things.
In that book, I believe it's chapter 9, and it talks about persistence.
Yes,
And it talked about the difference between highly successful people and people who have not experienced success is the word persistence.
yes.
It's incredible how that happens.
And you know, one thing as a salesperson, remember I just started developing sales. Now I didn't just stay there and take a title. I started taking classes, I started taking courses, I started doing seminars on selling, because selling is a profession just like any other profession.
It is.
You hear people say, well, he's a natural born salesman. Well, really, there's no such thing as a natural born doctor or a natural born lawyer. They have to be learned, they have to be developed. Now, you can be born with a pleasing personality, but good sales skills are something that you can learn and you can
Has to be
taught.
cultivated.
Exactly. So that's something that I was good at, because when I was 14 years old, I was working in Busch Stadium selling soda. That's when I started, 1970.
So look,
I was selling soda.
Before we go any further, tell me a little bit about your life partner. If we did this and we don't talk about her, then I don't want her seeing this without you telling how she helped you to be successful.
You know, my wife. I met my wife Ivy at a wedding, actually. Met her at a wedding, and we got married. We'll be celebrating 31 years this year, end of March. My wife joined me in I moved to Kentucky in '84. She moved in '88. So we commuted for 4 years, from '84 to '88. So, you know, that was that was back and forth all the time for you. And finally, when I started my business in 1988, 4 years after I came to Kentucky, I said, it's time for me to do my own thing again, and I need your help. So she moved to Kentucky to help me start my business. She gave up her job, which was a manager of Southwestern Bell. She worked for Southwestern Bell. At the time, they were headquartered in St. Louis. They later moved to Dallas. Now they're in Now they're in Texas.
Tell people the name of your business again.
My name of my business is Superior Maintenance Company, but we also have another company, which is Sharon Associates, which we actually started in 1988. So my wife helped me put that together. She did my quotes, she did all my typing, and when I started off, I started in one bedroom of our apartment.
Wow.
And I had a 4-drawer file, a fax machine, remember those things, fax machines? Mm-hmm. And a computer. It was a leading edge computer with 150 meg. I mean, it was.
I remember my early days at WMZ Radio where we felt it was really, we had made it because we got a fax machine. we only have a few more bits, but so there's some other basic business things I want to ask you about.
Okay.
That's real important. If you could share 3 factors or 3 things that you could attribute to your success, what would they be?
I would say honesty, character, and integrity.
All important.
Honesty, character, and integrity. And those are the 3 principles or elements that my father instilled in us and drove it home for many, many years. So those are the things, that's been the foundation of my success. And of course, as you can see, I'm wearing Lexus attire today, and that's because we are now the Lexus of the service industry.
There you go.
And my largest customer is Toyota.
Okay.
And we took their philosophies of success, just like I told you about copying others, we took theirs and we took the Toyota way and the Toyota production system, and we developed the Superior production system.
Let me ask you another question. Tell me a little bit about the biggest challenges. What were some of your big challenges that you had to overcome in order to get to where you are?
My biggest challenge was really just focusing on what it takes to be successful. What I mean by that is,
well, tell me, share.
What I mean by
take
that,
a deeper dive into that.
Yeah, what I mean by that is, even though I had a good job, I had a good profession and everything, I still wanted to learn as much as I could, okay, about the things. So I went to school, things like that. I wasn't fortunate enough to where my parents said, okay, we're sending you to college, okay? My dad says, I was responsible for you till you're 18 years old, and you're on your own after that, okay? But he raised us the right way where each one of my siblings are successful as well. In fact, my brother is my vice president of sales, operates our office in St. Louis to this day.
You are an example of learning a skill, working hard, and taking advantage of what you've learned over the years.
Right.
And willing to take a risk in order to get it done.
But as far as an obstacle, see, I guess I don't believe in obstacles. See, that's the difference. I don't believe in obstacles. I believe in the only obstacle is not knowing, like for instance, your competition. You could say competition is an obstacle. You follow me? I mean, when I started my business, I didn't worry about pay because I was prepared to go a whole year without salary because I didn't want that additional burden on me. So I didn't want the finance obstacle in my way. Fortunately, in 2 months, I was earning enough money where I didn't have to utilize those funds that I had saved. I knew that a red flag goes up once you become a business owner. Okay, now you had a good job, made good money, the bank loved you, as long as you deposit money, right? But now you start a business, the flag goes up. So before that flag went up, I had to establish a relationship with the bank.
You are the third person during this session over the weeks have said the importance of having a good relationship with a banker.
Yeah, and you should have a banker, you should have an accountant, you should have legal advice. Basically, those are 3 things you should have. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is my only obstacle was myself and my desire to not take advantage of creating opportunities, you might say. So fortunately, I had the selling piece under my belt, and that created an opportunity for me that maybe other companies don't have. In other words, I just wasn't starting my business because I was a good welder and I wanted to start welding, or I was a machinist and I wanted a machine shop. My job was developing business, and that's what I knew how to do. So I had an advantage over most people for that reason when I started my business.
If you could change anything today, looking back on all those years and things you've done, if there was one thing you could change, what would you change?
At this point, I don't think I would change much of anything other than maybe have my family more involved
Okay.
in my business.
Okay.
You know, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. I have 3 lovely daughters. One's in St. Louis, one's in Atlanta, and one's in Connecticut. And 2 of them in the healthcare field, and the other one is in fashion.
Yes. You have been also very civic-minded over the years. Share with us some of the things that you've been involved with and that your heart has always been in the right place.
Well, you know, I always believe in helping others. That's one thing I've taken pride to do, and you know, from an early age. You know, unlike my father always said, "Look, I'm responsible for you guys, and that's it." And I always said, "Dad, you need to help others." You know, he always, no, my job was to raise you and make sure you guys are the best you can be, and then that's what I'm responsible for. I was always a little bit different. My mother was different. I kind of take more after my mother in that sense than my father. But I'm the past president of Rotary International. Okay, now I also believed in networking and developing things through networks. Okay, so I mean, somebody told me a long time ago the way to succeed is by getting experience, utilize someone else's experience, right? Mm-hmm. Other people's experience, I guess, is what you call that. So I would utilize that, but primarily, the main thing that I would say is always want to make things better. Okay, always want to make things better. As a Rotary president, the motto for Rotary International is service above self, okay? Service above self. So Rotarians are all over the world. You can go anywhere in the world and there'll be a Rotary club you can go to. And like attracts like, right? So therefore, I was at Rotary Club. I've been on the board of Republic Bank. I've been on the board of Cub, Citizen Union Bank. And I've been on the board of the St. Louis Fed Board, the Louisville branch, okay? And these are all, even though they're boards, but they're also very civic-minded organizations as well.
I have one that we're gonna wrap this thing up. It has been a marvelous interview. You and I could talk another 2 hours. It would be easy. First of all, again, very dear friend of mine. Our families are pretty close. Last question. What advice would you give anyone who's watching today who is sitting on the fence on starting their own business? What advice would you give them?
My advice would be learn as much as you can about whatever it is that you're planning to venture into. Nowadays, it's very difficult to start a business, more so than it was in the past, I think. But look at how you can possibly partner. I think today is something where you could partner. I think you're better off if you look at partnering, where 1 + 1 can equal 3. Okay? So for a company just getting started, I would recommend that today to get a foothold or a step above your competition is through partnerships.
Good stuff. Well, today has been a great day. Thank you, Kevin Shern, for being a part of Money Matters today. You have been a wealth of information. You are greatly appreciated, and there are so many things we're going to go over the next number of weeks. We're going to talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship. We're going to spend some time on taxation and what to do as it relates to taxes. I've heard that many of you want to know about how to handle Social Security, when you should get on, when you should get off, when you should do Social Security. Just to name a few of the things that we'll be touching on Money Matters. Thank you, have a good day, and please tune in next week.